Hey, it's Doug with Backcountry Pilgrim, and today I wanted to take a look at the Esee Advanced Survival Kit. But I do not have an Esee Advanced Survival Kit because it's pretty expensive and they wouldn't send me one for free. So I decided to see if I could make something like the Esee Advanced Survival Kit out of gear that I already had or that I could afford to buy. So in this video, I'm going to go over the Esee Advanced Survival Kit and then tell you how I built something of my own for far less money. Now, to keep things fair, I gave myself a few rules for how I could put this kit together. Number one, this is not a budget survival kit. Pretty much all the gear in here could be purchased for a much lower price, but only by sacrificing quality, and the Esee Advanced Survival Kit is very high quality gear. So I'm not going to try to beat their price by going cheap. Cheap should not be the goal when you're trying to put something together that could save your or someone else's life. Now, my second rule was, although I could replace what Esee gives you with something I already had, I have to price it as if I bought it for the kit. Now, there is one important qualification here. I have a lot of good gear, and I wasn't going to go out and buy something cheaper just to try to beat Esee's price. Now, if I did have my own gear that I thought was an upgrade to the Esee kit, I went ahead and put it in here. But if the price pushed me too far out of my goal, I did look up alternatives that I thought were also good, and I'm using those prices. And one final consideration is that if you're not going to get an all-in-one package, it's going to take you quite a bit of time to find all of these items yourself. So I have listed everything in here in the links below, and if you use those links, it does help the channel without any cost to you. All right, so let's dig into what I have in this kit compared to what Esee gives you in their Advanced Survival Kit, and then in the end, we'll talk prices and weight. Feel free to skip around the table of contents bar down here if you don't want to see every single thing. There are a lot of items. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going into each one. This is not a review video, but I hope it will be helpful to you. As I look through the gear, I did have a couple questions. One of them has to do with navigation. If the purpose of the emergency kit is to help you survive in a situation where your vehicle breaks down, it stands to reason that that vehicle would probably break down on a road. Even if you are off-road, you're not just crashing through the bush. You're following some kind of route that I would assume you could follow back. But it's interesting that in all of the ads that I saw for this kit, it shows people just walking away from their vehicle straight into the woods. But realistically, I don't think I've ever been in a situation where if my car broke down, I wouldn't just backtrack my route out. One big surprise with the Esee Advanced Survival Kit is that there are almost no medical supplies. The only thing the kit had were 2 compression bandages, which would be useful in several situations. But what if you just got a big slice on a finger? Even a fairly well-stocked first aid kit does not take up so much room or weigh so much that it wouldn't be worth including. Further, fire starting seems to be a big priority for the Esee Advanced Kit, coming with no less than 5 pieces of gear and several different methods for fire making, but no lighter. All right, so moving on, I'm basically going to unpack my kit, go through each piece of gear, and compare what I have or bought to what comes in the Esee Advanced Kit. So to start off with, we have the actual survival pack itself. Esee gives you a sweet, smallish pack. It's only about 11 liters, made of 1000D nylon. It used to come in this really cool orange color, but in most of the places that I see offering this kit now, it's more of an olive green. Now, for this piece of gear, I did choose a bit of a downgrade, not so much to save money, but just because I really couldn't find anything that had the kinds of features I was looking for to match this particular pack. Now, I already had a cheap Chinese tactical backpack, but it was such a piece of junk that I just really didn't think it would even be fair to include it in this video. And plus, I was really into the bright orange color of the Esee Survival Pack. And so I looked around until I found something more like it. Now, the closest I could get was a 25-liter pack, ran about $36. I did find another 10-liter bag that was closest in size, color, and the way it opens, but I just didn't think I'd be able to make the changes I wanted to this kit with a bag quite that small. The other cool thing about the Esee Survival Pack is this removable map carrier, which I will get to later. At this point, we are $185 into the Esee system and $36 into mine. Next, we have the headlamp. Esee gives you a Petzl Takina. I have been running Vaught headlamps for years. I've never had a failure, and they only run $9. You do get a spare AAA batteries. I had some of my own from Kirtland that run $1.06. Next, I decided to pack a rain poncho, something that you do not get with the Esee kit. You can usually get these for about $5. Next, we have a survival blanket. Esee gives you 2 of these. They run about $14. I already had some generic blankets, but the SOL Deluxe runs $7 a piece. However, since I had the generic ones for $3.50 a piece, my total just went up by $7. Next, we have some paracord. Esee gives you 30 feet, and here I dug into my SOL Camp Ready Survival Kit. This was an $80 kit. I am going to be referencing that kit several times in this video because a lot of what I put in my kit came out of it. I got 50 feet of paracord with the SOL kit. Continuing in the cordage category, Esee gives you 100 feet of Kevlar trip line. I had 50 feet of Dyneema cord that I replaced it with because I didn't really know what to do with the trip line, but 100 feet of Emma Kite's Kevlar trip line runs $6.40, so that is what I am putting on my total, and I also snapped my figure 9 Night Eyes carabiner to it. Next, Esee gives you 2 Bright Strike Chem Lights, military grade glow sticks, run about $16 for a 10-pack, so we're looking at $3.20 to match those. Next, we have a pencil. The pencil comes from Right in the Rain, runs about $2. I had a Right in the Rain pen that ran $8.47, so I put that in there as an upgrade. Esee gives you a waterproof notebook with survival info on it. Again, I had a Right in the Rain pack already. There was no emergency information on it, but it ran $3.52, and I had 2. Now, as far as the survival navigation cards, this is a pack that you can get from Esee for about $15. I had one that came with one of my Esee Azula knives, but since I really didn't have what the whole pack concluded, I went ahead and just added $15 to my kit. Next, there was a signal mirror, just a generic polished mirror with a hole punched through the center for aiming. You can get these for about $8, but I found 2 for $6 on Amazon. Next, even though Esee does include one of the best bushcraft knives in the world in their kit, they also included a Victorinox Swiss Army knife hiker model. These run about $35. Now, I replaced this with my Topic MacGyver tool. I'm not entirely sure what they ran when they were new. I just put $35 down to match the Swiss Army knife, but I was able to upgrade because I already owned this. Getting to the medical, all Esee gives you in this category are 2 H-bandage trauma dressings. I upgraded my medical supplies with a full first aid kit. Esee does give you some purification tablets to create potable water. Their tablet treatment runs about $12. I had exactly the same thing, and then I added 2 Rhino Rescue H-bandages to that kit that I already had for $16. Next, Esee gives you 4 collapsible 1-liter water bags. These run about $8. I didn't have these, but I did have a Canuck Vecto 2-liter bag. It is very fast filling, it is totally secure, and there is not room for 4 liters of water to be carried in the Esee kit, so I thought it would be better to upgrade the bag, so I went ahead and added $25 for that piece of gear to my kit. Continuing with the food and water gear, Esee gives you a survival mess tin. It's an aluminum 1-liter box that can double as a pot to boil water and wild edibles in. You can buy one of these for $15. Now for this, I included my trustworthy MSR Alpine stainless steel stowaway camping pot. It's a little under 1 liter, weighs 13 ounces. You can get it for about $15, so that is what I put in the cost column. Now if you buy this from Esee, it does include more gear, so I'm keeping that in mind as I go along. Now inside my pot, I did throw in a lightweight carabiner to help with the wire saw. They run about $5. I had one of those in my SOL kit already. Next, Esee gives you a survival fishing kit. I do have a sardine can survival kit, but I decided just to put the $27 in for the price of the gear that Esee gives you. Moving on to fire, we have the classic Ferro Rod. I believe this is a Light My Fire large Ferro Rod, excellent quality for $15. Esee gives you a small roll of duct tape. Again, I had this in my SOL kit. Esee also gives you some fuel packs from Utility Flame, a couple units for $6. I replaced these with 12 Tinder sticks from my SOL kit. Continuing, Esee gives you a small sewing needle set for repairs. I had one in my SOL kit. Getting back to the fire, Esee gives you sealed waterproof matches. I had to replace these with my Bic lighter. I consider this an upgrade. Now, whether or not this is an upgrade is going to probably be a very controversial opinion, so I'm just going to leave it to you to decide. But when it comes to the knife, of course, Esee is one of the greatest knife companies in the world. They're giving you their Esee 4P. It's a $120 knife. The closest I've seen that isn't the Esee 4 is the OKC Rat 3, runs $100. I personally replaced it with my K-Bar Becker BK2 Companion, runs $125. But if I was going to buy a knife and try to beat Esee's price, I would probably go with the Rat, so I am putting $100 in my kit. Esee gives you 2 generic trash bags. These are for helping with shelter building and other uses. They run a couple bucks. I upgraded to trash compactor bags. Now, one really interesting thing that comes with the Esee Advanced Survival Kit is a set of repelling gear. Now, when I say rappel, I'm not really talking about jumping off of big cliffs and sliding down them. Esee is only giving you 25 feet of rope. I had some X-Ben outdoor climbing rope laying around that should never be climbed with, but is safe enough for rappelling. I put in 32 feet for $18, so that's a bit of an upgrade. The other piece that Esee gives you is a climbing class 24 kilonewton locking carabiner. I had a black diamond light forged screw gate, which is a bit of a downgrade, but definitely good enough for this application, runs $13. Now, before moving on to additional gear, I do want to say something about this rappel gear, because it takes up quite a bit of room in this kit and adds a lot of weight. So it seems like this is the sort of thing that should be pretty handy in an emergency situation. I do agree that it can be, but I also want to point out some things for those who don't really know how rappelling works, because if you just see a big coil of rope in there, you might be thinking, oh great, if I come to a 25-foot cliff, I'll be okay. Well, you will not. Part of the reason has to do with retrieval. The easiest way to do this is to simply double the rope up. You just toss the rope around whatever you're using for an anchor, and you use both strands to lower yourself, and that way when you come off the rappel, you just grab one of the strands, give it a tug, and pull it down to you. Of course, doing so means that you're losing half the length of rope, so 25 feet of rope realistically is probably not going to get you much more than a 10-foot rappel. And unless that is a vertical rappel, you'd probably be just as safe sliding down it on your butt. Now, the second way to retrieve your rope, which is actually how they do it in the Esee video, is that you tie some thin cordage to the end of your rope, and then when you get all the way down, you can pull the rope back through the system and retrieve it. My final concern is that in the rappel video, the man simply snaps a locking carabiner onto his belt. So one thing you might want to consider is that if you think that you might ever need to use this rappel gear from this emergency kit, you need to make sure that you know how to tie the proper hitch that is used, that you have a belt on that you will trust with your life, and that you understand both ways of setting the gear up so that you can retrieve it when your rappel is over. All right, moving back to the gear. The tarp is a major part of the shelter that Esee provides. It's a nice bright orange so that you can use it as a signal panel as well as a rainproof tarp. I had a similar one that is insulated in my SOL survival kit. Next we have the map case. Now I have to admit, the gear geek in me really loved this part of the Esee system. Esee gives you a small 13 by 8 inch map case that actually attaches to the pack so that it can be removed and even placed in a front pocket. Obviously, if you need a map, you're not going to want it behind you on your backpack. Now, I do have a Cosebate map case that is 19 by 11 inches with a quick disconnect keychain. Could be considered a downgrade because it doesn't have that cool attachment functionality. However, it could be considered an upgrade because you can see a lot more of the map. In any case, it runs 16 bucks. Now for navigation, Esee gives you a Suunto A10 compass. Suunto is one of the very best compass manufacturers out there. This is not one of their top compasses. It only runs about 24 bucks. Now my SOL survival kit actually had a pretty decent compass included, but since I have a Suunto M3 Global, I decided I'd put that in my kit instead. Esee gave 10 feet of orange survey tape for path marking. I bought 6 100-foot rolls for $5. Esee also included 2 quick disconnect keychains. I had one with my map case, and I upgraded to a Night Eyes magnetic and screw type disconnecting keychain. It's a nice lightweight polycarbonate, runs $10. Esee gives you a rapid rescue bright orange emergency whistle. I had such a whistle in my SOL kit. Now, Something that I consider to be a significant upgrade to my kit is that I put in a backpack rain cover, and I did this for two reasons. Number one, the more obvious, if it begins to rain and you don't want your gear soaked, it's good to have a backpack rain cover. But the other reason is, should I find myself in a situation like maybe an urban environment where I don't want to call a lot of attention to myself, I'm not going to want that bright orange backpack anymore. By putting this black rain cover over it, it makes it a lot lower key and makes it a little easier to blend in an area that I don't want to stand out. Now, the last piece of gear that Esee includes that I tried to duplicate was a Fresnel Lens. This is basically like a plastic magnifier. They run about $3. I got mine for $2. Now, in the end, there were 3 pieces of gear that Esee includes that I just didn't personally need, so although I included the price of these items in my figures, I didn't include them in my kit. And that is a set of Ranger bands, a bit of steel snare wire, and some green Apals lights. All right, so now for the big reveal. The Esee kit retails for $725. It's about $640 on Amazon, and it looks like the total weight of the kit is about 5 pounds. I put my kit together for $475, and because of the larger pack and some of the additional things I put in it, I'm running 11.5 pounds. For $475, I was able to add and upgrade 16 pieces of gear. I considered only 4 of my choices to be downgrades, and all the rest were the same, if not slightly better. However, keep in mind that the amount of time it would take to find all of these pieces and the shipping costs could drive that number quite a bit higher. But if you have Amazon Prime and you use the links in the description below, you could pretty much build this entire kit for under $500, which would likely save you quite a bit of money and not be a whole lot harder to put together. Again, there are links to all the gear that I went over in here in the description of the video below. I'd appreciate it if you use those. It does help the channel out at no cost to you. If you are interested in other survival and everyday carry gear, check these videos out. If you like the video, please give it a like and subscribe to Backcountry Pilgrim if you are into hiking, camping, backpacking, and the gear that goes with it. Until next time, I'm Doug. Thanks for watching.